Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today. She's a digital marketing maven. She's a thought leader. She's an SEO guru. Please help me welcome to the show, Alizabeth Leng-Barton, co-founder at Rank Writers. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
So much for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about SEO and marketing. I know that that's a big buzz right now, so I'm really excited we can have this conversation.
I am too. You and I have been connected for a while. We run in a lot of the same circles. We're connected to a lot of the same people. But I have to admit, last week you did a video that grabbed my attention. And as soon as you did, I instantly reached out and said, we need to talk.
Yes.
So let's jump in. Your video was about why website traffic is plummeting. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and share with our listeners, why is that taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're seeing with a lot of our clients at Rank Writers, I'm seeing with my Stratomized clients, and people are seeing across the board is traffic is plummeting. And what I mean by plummeting is, 15% minimum loss of organic traffic. Most companies are seeing closer to 40 to 60% in their lost traffic. Why is that? Well, AI search. One of the biggest things that we're seeing across the board is a transition in how people are searching. I think about my own experience. I'm sure you do this as well. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners do as well. What happens is you want an answer. You quickly want it, right? We're all about speed in today's day and age. And so I type in my question to Google, or I ask, Siri, I ask Google, and I get the answer immediately now, right? It's that little AI overview you're seeing at the top of almost every Google search. So that's taking traffic away, right?
Yep.
Because I'm reading that answer. Now, whether it's the correct answer or not, we can get into. But I'm reading that answer and going, I got my answer. I'm good to go. I don't need to go and click onto somebody's blog. I don't need to go and click onto somebody's landing page because I have my answer. The other thing we're seeing is ChatGPT and Perplexity, which are, once again, AI search. They're the more like large language models. So you're going into ChatGPT, you're typing in your question, you're typing in, how do I do this? I do it a lot whenever I am not quite sure how to code something. I'll say, hey, I want to do this on a website. Can you give me the CSS? And now you have to know a little bit about CSS to play around with that. But at the same time, it's giving me back the code. I don't have to go and piece together that code.
I had the same experience with that of, I had a spreadsheet that I had to get into a format. I'm like, I just could put it in the chat. I'm like, hey, here's the format and the template they're telling me I have to get this into. Help. Went back once or twice. Done.
What would you have done before? You would have gone to Google. You would have looked through 3, 4, 5 articles. You probably would have looked at a couple of different websites for tools that maybe you would have used to format that. So it's taking away that potential for the customer to purchase a tool or a widget. And it's also taking away that search traffic by using these AI agents.
So where do we go from here then? So for the people that say, all right, so now what do I do? How do I still grab attention? How do I still grab awareness? Where's that shift and what do they need to do now moving forward?
Yeah, that's a huge question right now because nobody's really addressing the elephant in the room. We know we're losing traffic, but we're going, well, it's just the way it is, but it doesn't have to be. So one of the biggest things that you can do is focus on your intent traffic. And what I mean by intent is like, I am looking for information, right? How am I looking for information? I'm searching for questions. So when we're developing content, we look at that intent. We start saying, okay, I need to address the questions people are asking so that the search engine sees it and they put me in that AI overview. That's how you're going to start getting people back to your website because the AI overview cites what 4 or 5 websites they pulled the information from. And more often than not, people are clicking on that AI overview to then go to the websites that are up in that top spot. So positions 1, 2, 3, 4, pretty much gone because of that AI overview. And then you have the sponsored ads. So there's like 3 more at the bottom. So focusing on intent, focus on, if I want somebody for informational purposes, I want to ask questions. If I want somebody that's there to make a purchase, I then need to be creating my content to that purpose. I need to be including the CTAs to drive them to the web page. I need to be looking at other channels. I need to not just be creating, a blog, but I also need to be doing email marketing. I need to be branching out into some social media marketing. You need to create this holistic strategy that kind of gets you away from just focusing on search engines and focus on your whole marketing strategy. But at the root of everything we do when it comes to marketing strategy, as you and I know, is content.
That's
and
right.
If your content's not there, you're not going to end up in that AI overview. You're not going to have the content for your SEO, for your social media. You're not going to have the content for things like this, like podcasts and LinkedIn videos and all these different channels that you need to be leveraging. So one of the biggest things that I always say is think about your content strategy. And typically I say, let's start where it's easiest. Let's start with getting those frequently asked questions onto your website, put them on any page you can. If it makes sense for there to be an FAQ on there, put it on there, because that's going to help you get into that AI overview. That's going to help you get onto ChatGPT. That's going to help you get onto Perplexity. The other thing when it comes to like those FAQs you can do, there's this really cool thing called Perplexity pages, which I've been digging into a lot recently. And Perplexity pages are pages that you create inside of Perplexity. Perplexity already has some domain authority. Actually, it's quite a bit of domain authority.
Right.
What that means is Google sees it as credible. Other search engines see it as credible. And people are searching on Perplexity. So if you create a page that is all about a topic related to your business, and then you plug your business at the bottom using these Perplexity pages, you can drive traffic from there. So it's about finding other creative avenues of getting people back to your site based on what was their intent. Are they researching to purchase? Are they just researching? Where are they at in that funnel?
So you've brought up so many good points very, very quickly. So I want to dive a little bit deeper. And I think the first thing that you mentioned, and we need to hit this home because people kind of nod and say, yes, I get it. Content's important. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing how little time they spend with a content strategy, how little time they spend on what's really the value proposition. I don't want features and functions. Quit telling me you have these 20 things that your system can do. That's not what people want to read about. They want to read about how did you solve a problem that a lot of other people have. So when we talk content and we talk intent, what are some of the ways that you help people look at and understand intent versus just talking about product features and functions?
Yeah. So one of the big things recently that as an actionable thing that somebody could take away from our conversation here, looking at use cases. So you said it yourself, people want to not just know what does your product do? They want to know how does it work for me? How does it benefit me? Because at the end of the day, the person who is purchasing your product, the person who's going to work with you as a lender, the person who is going to be your end customer doesn't care about what you do. They care about what's in it for them. And I mean, that's a marketing fundamental that has been there for, when was the book, It's All About Me written? It was probably like 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. I mean, it is all about what's in it for me. And so when you think about your content strategy, it's starting with, all right, I know that my customer, let's use a lender for example, I know that right now in this market, they need more market opportunities.
That's right.
They need more borrowers in the pipeline. So if I'm advertising my widget, if I'm writing content about my widget, I don't want to say, hey, this widget is going to help you look up leads. It's going to help you find out who's in this neighborhood, because that's what every single one of those widgets does, right?
That's right.
What you want to be talking about is, where's the value add? Where is, hey, you're going to get more opportunities to get in front of that consumer. You are going to have X, Y, and Z the ability to turn, let's say, 100 of these people who were in your pipeline into an opportunity. That's what's in it for them, is those 100 new opportunities. They can look for those leads all they want, but if they're not qualified, doesn't matter, right?
That's right.
But this is going to put you in a position where you can turn it into an opportunity. It's going to, a lot of the times, the big ones, save money, save time, be more efficient, and not just saying those words, because I think a lot of the times today we people throw things into ChatGPT and they're like, hey, I've got an email here and ChatGPT is using, more efficient, more time savings, more money savings.
Streamlined. And
I think when you use a use case, so going back to where we were going with this, when you use a use case, you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, I have this client that I worked with. They were, they needed to get X number of dollars into their pipeline. This is what the problem was, right? They were struggling with this. We came in. Here are the solutions we put in place. And that's that more what you're talking about, like the features and the widget itself. And then you say, and here were the outcomes. And the outcomes are those tangible benefits. We were able to streamline this piece of the puzzle, and we were able to turn this change in their process into X dollars in revenue. Because we're not always selling a widget. Sometimes we're selling a service. And
correct.
So you can put those tangible benefits that come out of it, like improving their overall process, improving their bottom line. Those are the things that are going to make a difference, and you want to be including that. So a use case is always really valuable because it also does, which is a little bit more technical, it's EEAT, which is what Google's looking for. It's basically, Google wants to know, do you have authority in this topic? Do you know what you're talking about?
Yep.
Is this a relevant source? That's the easiest way to break down EEAT. But if you put a use case in there, it has every single piece that Google is looking for, that Bing is looking for, that these new AI searches are looking for. And all you had to do was tell a story. And storytelling, no matter where we go with AI, no matter where we go with search engine marketing, is always going to resonate with your end user, because we've been communicating with stories for thousands, millions of years, right? That's how we communicate. This entire time, I started on use cases, been going through the pieces of it and coming back to the use case because I'm telling you a story about how you use use cases, right?
Exactly.
I'm not just here breaking it down. I'm telling you the journey that you go through. So,
well, I love that, because I think one of the things a lot of executives struggle when we're trying to do content for them and create content is, oh, we've got this new product and we think it's going to really revolutionize the industry and it's going to be great. And we got to, and they think they have to talk about that instead of what the use case is for. Where's the value that you're bringing? Why do people care? And I love, as you talk about storytelling, one of the other things you brought up early on in our discussion was you can't be a one-trick pony in marketing today anymore. Yeah. So talk to me about how it's so important not to put all your eggs in one basket and really look at having a dynamic multi-channel marketing approach.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when we talk about marketing, a lot of people, especially executives, individuals who aren't necessarily have a marketing background, right?
Right.
They view marketing as the things that they physically see. So the podcast that you guys created, the webinar, the blog that's on your website, the social media post that goes out. And when it comes to marketing, when you look at an omni-channel approach, which is really what's required today. Omni-channel, same thing you're talking about. It's, that multi-channel, that every single channel is saying the same thing. It's the same message. So when you look at that omni-channel approach, it's important to consider the things that you are seeing, but the things that you're probably not seeing because they're going out to a targeted audience. So a good thing to consider is your entire funnel. When I think about my funnel, I don't just think about, what is driving. Now here, when we talk about rank writers, we're talking about SEO. We're talking about what is driving somebody to your website. But once you get them there to your website, then what do? Right? And that's
Right.
where a lot of the work that I do and the people I work with do is on the Stratemise side is pulling that all together into an omni-channel approach. And this omni-channel approach is I start with the top. I get somebody there. That's a social media post. That's a blog. Those are the things that you see. Once they're in my pipeline, I need to start thinking about how do I nurture them?
Exactly.
How do I convert them? How do I build a relationship when we're living in a digital world? So how do I start building that relationship? Well, it might be a newsletter. It might be an email that you send out, regularly with, I really like to send out blog emails. So it's a value add. I'm not pushing my product down your throat.
That's
I'm
right.
just saying, here's a useful resource. I like to share other sources. So not just what I'm putting together in part of my content strategy, but hey, did you see this Housing Wire article? It's relevant to you as an audience. Then you want to think about what's your sales team doing? Because as a marketer, I've done my job. I've gotten them into the pipeline, right? But we all know your content strategy doesn't end with your marketing team. It then goes into your sales team. So then I'm thinking, how is my sales team communicating with their prospects? Because a lot of those prospects are ones that I've dumped onto their lap and said, hey, they came from this marketing email. I need you to reach out to them. And I say I'm doing that. A lot of the times it's automated systems like HubSpot
Correct.
or your CRM, but it's saying, hey, reach out to this person. So something that I like to do there as a marketer and something that I think a lot of companies should look at is creating sales templates, creating a version of an email or a message that the sales team can then reach out to a prospect with. And I always encourage them to personalize it and make it their own and tweak the language and things like that. So that,
They have a starting point.
yeah, so they have a starting point and they know what email that person came from and they can continue the journey because we want to be saying the same thing from the point they enter the funnel to the point that they get to that sale.
One voice consistency. That's what I
Yes,
like to say. So tell
yeah,
me, we started with SEO. I want to dive back in a little bit.
yes,
Tell me about rank writers. Tell me what you guys
yeah,
focus on that SEO side of it. And then we'll talk a little more AI as we are winding down.
absolutely. So at Rank Writers, our whole goal is to get people to your website and to convert them into leads, right? That top of the funnel activity. And how we do that is we focus very heavily on the content side of things. So empowering your team with blogs that then you can turn into whatever other pieces of the marketing picture that you need. But really, at the end of the day, we use several SEO tools. We use the latest research. We're staying up to date on what's happening inside of the AI SEO to really craft a content strategy that aligns with the intent of your customer, but also aligns with what they're looking for exactly. And by that, I mean, I spend a lot of time researching not just the keywords because
Right.
today keywords matter, but I'm also looking at how are people asking the questions and where is that driving them into the funnel. And then, doing the things like adding in the CTAs. And we don't just create content for content's sake, right? We're creating these blogs for our clients that are there for them to use as part of their funnel, but also that convert because it doesn't matter if I get somebody to my website if they don't end up in my funnel, right?
That's right.
So taking them on a journey, doing interlinking between articles to create that stickiness, getting people to go from page to page, and then also offering SEO support on other areas like meta descriptions, those kind of that back end stuff that you might not
Backlinks, any
think
of
about.
those.
Yeah, things that you might not think about. Well, we could have a whole nother discussion on backlinks, but backlinks, the jury's not out yet on whether they're actually effective anymore. But really focusing on how do we drive people to your website and then how do we convert them. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's most important. And we have several businesses that we're working with inside of the mortgage industry. I know your audience isn't just mortgage, but I'd really love to really quickly tell you, we just had a lender come on board and we were working with them. We gave them the first month of content. And within the first month of content I think they posted 6 blogs for the month.
Okay.
4 of them ended up being their top pages for acquiring traffic. And
Awesome.
now we're watching their lead forms have doubled in the past month. We're working with another vendor inside of the mortgage space that in the past 6 months since AI overview became a thing, we have gotten them from, 0 AI overviews because there were none, to now they have over 1,500 AI overviews as SERP features. So we're really excited about it because we're getting people found and then we're seeing that traffic convert.
And that's the key.
Which
Like
is
you said, it's
awesome.
not creating content just to create content. And I
Right.
think people struggle with getting good, high quality content out there, whether it's in the written form, whether it's in video form.
Right.
Elizabeth, you and I could talk about these things for
Oh
hours. What's
yeah.
one last thing you want to leave everyone with as it relates to AI and AI search so that they stay visible and relevant?
I think, I could give you a lot of tips on what to do with AI. If you watch some of my videos, if you listen to Michael, if you listen to a lot of the experts in the industry, you'll get those tips. But the biggest thing that I think we need to remember right now is things are changing and you need to remain open to other ideas. And I want to say that's my biggest bit of advice because I think we get very stuck in the way that things used to be done.
Yep.
But when it comes to AI search, what I'm telling you today probably will not be the same thing I'm telling you in a year from now, right? It's evolving quicker than any of us can imagine. What I would have told you 6 months ago is different from what I'm telling you today. And so, what you have to do is just remain active, be researching, and be open to ideas when they come because we're all still figuring it out, right? I spend a lot of time researching this, and every day I'm learning something new because it's
Uh,
constantly changing. So
I
remain open.
love that. And that desire to, you've got to constantly be learning, you've got to be curious about it. And you're right. The tips we were given on AI a year ago, those are irrelevant now. And we've got to focus on, okay, what's really important and how has the tools evolved? And the most beautiful thing about AI, the AI we're using today is the worst it will ever be. It's only going to get better. It's
Yeah.
only going to change and evolve. So you have so many great insights for people. If they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can get a hold of me at Allie, ALLIE, at rankwriters.com. Or you can follow me here on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I am Elizabeth Leng-Barton. I typically try to post every Monday. I've been bad about it. I will admit to that myself. But with everything being so busy, but one of the things I try to do is I try to post weekly about either SEO tips, marketing tips, sometimes just fun little snippets of life. But that's probably the best places to find me here.
I love it. Elizabeth, I can't thank you enough for being a guest on this episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast.
Thanks for having me.